and to my channel at the same time. I'm going to click go live to see if it works.
Go live.
Cool, man. I think I hit it too early.
Did you?
Yeah, it says this video is not available yet.
Uh-oh. Yep, it's starting to work now. Yep, there it is. It's working.
Here we go.
My
We
channel
are
at the same
going
time.
live.
I'm going to click go live.
Oh, yeah, it's working.
Awesome. Yeah, man. I got into it not too long ago. A friend of mine, well, an old friend of mine got into it. I don't even know how he got into it. And he told me about it, and I started looking into it and seeing through it. And I don't really know how I got interested in making videos. I think, I don't know, it just seemed fun. And I guess I wanted to do something with all the stuff I learned. I learned a lot of stuff about the Earth by looking into it. Oh, look at Red Pill. You want to get on, man?
Is Red Pill there?
Yeah.
Come aboard, buddy. Let's have a chat.
Where'd that chat go? Hold up.
Hey, Red Pill.
Come on, Red. Come in. Here we go. Come and say hi.
Oops. I don't know if it was a good thing that the link is showing right there. Oh, there we go. Oh, cool. Yeah, I don't think we're doing any hardcore debate or anything. I actually was just trying to go to sleep. Can't go to sleep. So I figured I could get up and talk for a while till I get sleepy and maybe talk for an hour or two.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh, he might jump on, have a bit of a chat.
It'd be nice. Ain't nothing else really going on tonight.
It's just an easy chat, Red. Nothing hardcore tonight. Just laid back.
Yeah, why don't we talk about how we got into the subject? Just something nice and easy, just friendly.
Yeah, there you go.
Nothing trying to convince anyone of anything. Let's just kick back, have a coffee.
I'll change the subject to what we're talking about now. We was talking about schisms, about what is it? What was that again? The non sequitur people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Jimmy probably knows a little bit more than what I do, to be honest with you, Darryl. I've only just caught the tail end of it. So.
That's no biggie.
I mean, yeah, I know some of what's going on, but I don't really want to. I don't want to say the wrong thing. You know what I mean? Like I know there was like a money issue between Kyle and Steve, and they were trying to work it out, but then they couldn't work it out, and then all of a sudden, Red went live with it last night and brought the whole issue to everybody.
Hey, what's going on, Red Pill?
Hey, Red.
What's up, guys?
Doing
There
good.
you go, buddy.
Hey, Red Pill.
Chilling.
Just chilling. Good to hear, man. Good to hear. This is just something laid back, buddy.
Yeah, just laid back, just chilling.
Just last minute.
It's all good. It's all good.
And what were you saying, C4?
Well, there was a money issue between Steve and Kyle, and I don't know why they couldn't work it out, or maybe they were trying to work it out, but then it went live on Red's last night, and the whole thing got exposed. I caught bits and pieces of it because I was going back and forth between different streams. It's a mess, you know. I mean, unfortunately, it went down the way it did, and hopefully they can resolve it, you know.
Hopefully so.
Probably should have been done behind the scenes a bit more, Jimmy.
Yeah, you're 100% right. It should have been done behind the scenes before it got exposed the way it did.
Well, seems like a lot of times stuff like that build up in the background and it just burst open.
Yeah, it's tough too when money is owed and stuff like that. I mean, it's a tough situation, you know. Maybe you get so frustrated you don't know what to do except bring it to everybody's attention. You know, I'm not sure. I'm not in that position.
Yeah, that seems like what happened.
Yeah.
You hound people down for money and they don't give it to you, so you feel like you have to resort to other means.
Right. Well, there was definitely a verbal, at least a verbal contract, as far as I'm understanding, that Steve had like 50% of whatever of the show, whether it was like the rights or the income or whatever, and then that didn't happen. So apparently they were talking about it for a long time. They were arguing about it, and nothing was being done. So I think that Steve had enough, and then
Yes,
decided to bring it to the public.
Sorry,
Mic check, mic check.
let me mute myself while I'm
we can
typing.
hear.
Jesus.
Yeah, yeah.
What's going
Here
on,
we-
guys?
Doing good, man. How about this, y'all? How about we keep it a positive night? Because you know, even though I may not agree with everything Red Pill says or some of the other flat earthers, the one thing I do respect is somebody who's looking for truth. And that's one thing I respect about Rob Ski, but we may not agree. But he floated up his balloon, and he did one video where he did he made he got like a beach ball and I think of like a baseball and did the camera thing. And you know, Red Pill seems the same. He seems like he's interested in truth. And so maybe what we can do, what do y'all think about just saying how we got into the topic and saying what drives us to get into the topic and talk about the topic? It seems like that'd be a good conversation no matter what side you're on, you know what I mean?
I
that.
like that. Yep.
Yeah.
So I don't mind starting and getting it going. I guess about 2 or 3 years ago, a friend of mine got into flat earth. I don't know exactly how, and he started telling me about it. And one thing I can say about flat earthers, they were right in that I did not really understand the earth. Like, you know, I accepted it was a globe, but if you ask me how exactly I knew other than the picture, I couldn't really say. So, and that's, I would say, one of the things that really got me started. Just looking at what the video said and actually doing research on, um, you know, I had an idea about the lunar eclipse, but exactly what causes the lunar eclipse and the way the moon rotates and the angles of the sun and the angles of sunlight. So I think that's what really started me along the way. And along the way, I guess I did get pulled into the debate thing pretty heavily for a while. And and but over time, I started to lighten up and just look more at the truth of it. Uh, Even though I might have got a bit energetic and I talked the other day, Pill, but trust me, I'm nowhere near like I used to be. So, but I think that's it, all what it was. It intrigues me. Um, the thinking that gets people on the other side. It intrigues me. The science behind the other side, because both sides have reasons behind what they say. It intrigues me learning not only why people think the way they do, but learning the actual facts behind it, whether why the globe will work that way, or why flat Earth will work this way, or why it wouldn't another way. So that's pretty much it. I guess my story is pretty simple thinking about it, just learning about science, and that's what still drives me today, learning about science, learning about uh, why people think the way they do, and so forth, and just sharing what I've learned with people who are into either side, and just keeping everything going. Who wants to go next? Talk
Cool.
about where they came from.
And what about you, Jimmy?
Yeah. Give me 1 second. Why don't somebody else go next? Give me 1 minute.
Maybe we get media. Matrix.
What do you say, Red Pill? You feel ready? You want to talk about it, or you want somebody else to go?
Yeah, I'll go real quick.
Yeah.
What got me into flat Earth? YouTube videos was what set it off because the YouTube algorithm used to promote flat Earth. So I got stuck into I wouldn't say a rabbit hole, but the first video I saw about flat Earth was from that guy. What's his name? Math Powerland. But he sounded like a troll in that little stand-up comedy bit. So I figured he was trolling that the Earth is actually flat because I thought that was ridiculous because I think we're all taught to believe that flat Earth is insane. Whether or not you think there's evidence for the globe, because as you kind of just alluded to earlier, Darryl, a lot of us don't know the globe model. We believe we live on a sphere. In fact, we know it, but we don't really even know step number one of how the model works.
That's right.
So I thought flat Earth was ridiculous, sounded absurd, and then YouTube would recommend me another video about flat Earth, and then eventually, it wasn't long before I found Eric Dubay, and to me that was the most at the time, having not seen any flat Earth videos, his compared to Matt Powerland, who was kind of like a trolling comedian type, Eric Dubé's was the serious approach. Okay, wait a minute. Flat Earth isn't a joke. It's not a stand-up comedy routine. This is someone's actually proposing this. No joke.
And are you talking about the 200 proofs?
Not that I don't think it was 200 proofs. It was just, I don't even remember which one it was, to be honest.
Just that it was
But
a
I know,
serious video.
yeah, it was a video that was serious. My point is that it was serious compared to Matt Powerland's stand-up joking routines. And so that was the first time I'm like, wait a minute, people are actually saying the Earth could be flat, like not joking, like seriously. And then I'm like, okay, well, it's got to be really easy to debunk this, right? I mean, the proofs for the globe have got to be everywhere. And I know I'd heard a couple here and there throughout my life, but I never looked into it seriously. And then, so that's basically what started me down this journey. And the reason I'm basically a flat earther today, after much resistance, I called myself a globe skeptic for the last 2 years. As I looked into this, I didn't want to call myself a flat earther because honestly, I can't really prove that it's flat either, because I've not been everywhere and I've not measured every inch of where we live. So it's still an assumption to say you're a flat earther, but it's a better assumption than saying you're a globe earther, given the utter lack of evidence for the globe. So that's how I got here.
Awesome, man. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
I believe is that matrix to the left of red pill that I see. You feel that going?
What's going on, guys?
How you doing, sir?
I'm
What's
good.
going on, Matrix?
I'm good. I'll just give you guys a little story. I've always been a truther ever since I was small. I've always been the kind of kid that asks questions, tough questions that adults never really knew how to answer me. Like, what happens, like questions about God and religion. I've always been very, and when I was in like my late 20s, I started to get into YouTube and researching, truth. I was into the Illuminati and the Bilderbergs. That's early stage conspiracy theory.
That's right.
I dove into all of that, and before Flat Earth, the last thing I dove into was the moon landing. And I already knew that the moon landing could not happen. When I heard the flat earth was what made it make sense to me. At that moment, I understood why they couldn't go. See, I knew they didn't go, but I didn't know why until the flat earth came. Then I said, oh shit, they can't go. It's impossible to go. That's why they didn't go. And ever since then, I've watched pretty much every video. Most of these videos are not even available at this moment in YouTube. Most of the videos that convinced me, they're not even up on YouTube anymore.
And to make sure I understand it properly, it wasn't even flat Earth. It was the moon landing that drove you to flat Earth, basically.
Nah, it was basically the YouTube algorithm. They just kept suggesting flat Earth shit and just flat Earth and flat Earth. And I put it off like everybody else. I was like, nah, man, this is kind of out there. Until I saw the first video and shit just started lining up. It wasn't even about the video, but more so about how they were laying the information and how they were making you think. It was that kind of thing. It wasn't like the video did it. It was just how they portrayed the information and how those connections started popping up from all those early conspiracy days and the moon landing and all that shit. It just made so much sense at that point. I also am aware that I can't prove it, because like Red Pill said, I haven't gone everywhere. But at this point, the globe and flat Earth have the exact same amount of proof for and against each other. I think it's a choice, and to me, the globe, the model doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make any sense, and if that doesn't make any sense, then you have to question the nature of our reality, which is very dependent on us flying through space, and that's really why I'm in it. I'm more interested about the nature of our reality. What are we doing here? Why are we here? That's pretty much it, guys.
Awesome, man. We appreciate you sharing.
Cool, yeah. Yeah.
What do you say,
Hey,
C4?
Jimmy. Go for it, Jimmy.
All right. Yeah. So how I came to be in this flat Earth stuff is because I was injured about 3 years ago at work. So I was laid up for a while, and I was watching on YouTube some science videos, some space videos rather. Sorry. And I would see these recommendations of flat Earth pop up, and I was just ignoring it. I didn't really know anything about it. Actually, I knew nothing about it. And then I watched one. I watched a little bit of one, and then I discarded it right away. Like I watched like a couple minutes of it, and I discarded it right away. But as I kept watching, videos about space and all this other stuff, they kept popping up. And then the next one I watched was Delano TV, the ball. I think that's his name, the balls guy. Like suck my balls, that guy. So I'm like, oh my gosh, man, what's going on? And so then once I watched that, I kept watching other ones, and then I'm like, wow, I didn't know this argument, was there. I had no idea. So then I watched a few more, and I didn't know that there was an anti-flat Earth that didn't pop up for a while. After a while, Cool Hard Logic popped up. So I watched his video, and I'm like, oh, all right, so now flat Earth is dead. But then I got sucked into it, and I just kept watching it and kept watching different videos, different content creators, mainly on the globe side. At that point, I stopped watching flat Earth videos, and now the only flat Earth videos I watch are on the glober side. Like when they make a video, they show a clip or two of the flat Earth video that they're either trying to debunk or whatever.
That's right.
And that's pretty much it. Like the only reason I would have never known if I have never gotten injured at work, I would have never known this stuff because I didn't really care. I was just too busy working and living my life. I would have never known this even existed.
Thanks for sharing, man.
And yeah, I mean, I guess that's pretty much it. I mean, it's a little more involved, but I don't have to go into all that. But that's pretty much it.
What would you say, Banso? You want to tell us how you got into it?
Yeah, mate. Look, well, like we've discussed before, I kind of read an article years ago on the flat Earth, and at the time didn't really take a great deal of notice. I thought it was a bit out there, probably like a lot of people. And similar to Jimmy, I had a bit of an accident and was at home. I don't mind a bit of a conspiracy theory type of thing, and like a couple of other guys have said here too. YouTube, and if you're looking into conspiracy theories and all that sort of stuff, the flat Earth kind of seemed to be the topic of the moment. And you watch some of these, and having a plumbing background, the thing that actually really resonated with me was the whole water is flat concept, and you sort of go, it just makes so much sense that water is flat, right? I've only ever dealt with water on that sort of level. Never seen it, adhere to the exterior of an object, anything like that. Always runs downhill, blah, 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 all these sorts of things. And I thought, it's just so simple, right? And I did. I went down the rabbit hole, and some of the proofs seemed out there. Some of the ways, some of the stuff, in regards to the moon landing and space and all that sort of stuff. Some of the pictures, some of the video clips, how they're pulled apart and whatnot. That does look a little bit dodgy. That photo does look a little bit dodgy. Is that a bubble, a water bubble in the background? Is that a harness? Is that a green screen? All these sort of bits and pieces.
You mean like the moonwalk, the moon landing, all of that?
Yeah, the moon landing, the stuff in the ISS and all these sorts of things. The way it's presented, it does actually, get you to wonder and question your reality and what you've been taught. history would be a wonderful thing if only it were true. And that does resonate. A lot of the stuff we've been taught. If you do some research, there's always a different side, and history is generally written on the side of the winner. There's always alternative stories, and as Kelly Ann Conway likes to say, alternative facts as well. And you just get sucked down the rabbit hole. And I did. I went down the rabbit hole for a while, but I was never in the forefront of the argument. I've just always been in the background, and joined a few follow a few different channels, a few different Discord servers, and was just in the background, just listening. Occasionally, I'd pop up and ask a question here and there, but wasn't really too active in the combative side of the debate. A few of the Discord servers that I'm involved with, and Sean knows, a couple of them that I'm involved with, seems a very confrontational kind of format to really learn, anything. So I just sat in the background. Occasionally I'd ask a question, here and there, but just sat in the background. But I was generally asking questions from my side, from place of of honesty. I really wanted to know different bits and pieces, and along my journey, I had a few people who really take the time to take time out of their personal lives, as I keep on saying, to explain things to me. And I don't necessarily understand, the physics and the maths and all this sorts of things, to this day, because it is very, very complicated. But the flat Earth debate evidence just seems to be so much on a local level, like a small and local level. And yes, there is no proof on one side or another, as they say, that is going to prove it one way or the other. And you do have to believe in what you're being told, and what is being presented, in which we all do that every single day in our everyday lives. We trust in the abilities and the expertise of other people to perform duties that we have no expertise in and no skills in. We do that every single day. But to throw the baby out with the bathwater and saying like everything is fake, nothing is true.
Talk too much, because we don't want to. I don't want to try to sort of put down anybody's position. Just how you got into it.
No. I'm not trying to put down anyone at all. I'm not trying to go down that path. I'm just trying to say that for me it was believing in and having faith in the expertise of other people. That doesn't mean I'm still not questioning things at all, but there just seems to be too much evidence on the globe Earth side to say that it's not. And if it is a spiritual thing, like a creator, I can't see why the creator can't create a globe as well as a flat plane.
But basically you got into it basically just from the videos that popped up, wanting to look and see. Basically, you just want to see where it was all coming from, wanting to find the truth, basically.
Yeah, and I was looking at things on a very simplistic level, and then like I kept on saying, and that's what got me hooked. The whole water is level. That is truly what got me hooked into it, because it just resonated with me. No other reason. It wasn't the moon landings or anything like this. It was purely and simply water is level.
What would you say, Sean? You want to give a brief synopsis of of how you got in, and maybe what we can do, I don't know if y'all into it, but perhaps we can try without debating, just because all of us have our reasons why we on the earth side and we on the on the flat side. And it seems like usually we spend the whole time, you know, sort of trying to argue with each other and things like that. How would y'all like to take like 10 minutes and present your best evidence or your best reason, not why you need to believe in what I believe, but just this is what I found. That's the best evidence I found, or the best lack of evidence I found that has me in my position. If y'all are up for trying that. But since Sean here, maybe we could, if you want to go into a brief synopsis of how you got into the subject
But
overall.
yeah, well, thanks for having me on the panel. First of all,
You're welcome. Thank you, man.
yeah, yeah. I was always a conspiracy theorist. So, looking into conspiracies. I'd never even heard of flat Earth. Ran into it and figured I was going to debunk it in one day. So, you jump on the first flat Earth panel that lets you, and then you start running with everything you think you know. Luckily, I was able to find a group that wanted to do it, just kind of like how you're explaining, just discuss it. No arguing, no back and forth, name calling, all that stuff. So I got to realize real quick I didn't quite know the globe as that, like I thought I did. Almost to the fact of, it made me open my eyes and realize, hey, when I go outside, it looks fucking flat, period. But the big problem was I couldn't see a globe. Like, when you, in your mind, you're going through the things you think you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't see globe. So it made sense to be flat. And seeing how looking for truth is what I came into it for. Over the 2 years, I got to learn and even more importantly, understand a lot about what's going on, and came to my conclusion, 6 months ago.
But still, the core of it was just simply finding the truth about something that you realized you didn't fully understand, really.
Absolutely. It wasn't to prove the flat Earth. It wasn't to prove a globe. I honestly thought it was flat, but I didn't know. So my goal was to just try to understand as much as I could and try to figure things out. And the progression of it was realizing that, locally, yeah, it looks flat, but nothing works. There's no evidences that work together to create a model in my head, so to speak.
Thanks, man. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, no problem.
What do you say, B-Ball? You wanna share how you got into the flat Earth globe topic or debate before we present our, not to debate, but just to share what our main thing is? Would you like to present how you got into the subject?
Yeah. So, basically, you get on YouTube and you start watching stuff, and you kind of start going down little rabbit holes and everything. So I just kind of stumbled upon it and watched. I seen Reg Rhetoric, and I didn't even know this was actually an argument. Once I started watching that stuff, I'm like, wow, there's actually people that really believe it. So I just started watching it, and I was like hooked, and I was just fascinated with the fact that there was people that actually believed it. So I just kept watching and watching, and then I started questioning myself, like, can I verify it for myself?
That's right.
So, I started looking, taking pictures and trying to play, like visualize it in my head. And then, basically all the observations that I've done is just reconfirmed what, society already knows, and that's pretty much it, and I'm going to continue to do more observations and put out like more videos, and just so people can see and see the actual truth and where we live at. That's pretty much it.
Awesome, man. Thanks for sharing. So it seems like everybody here is interested in truth, which is awesome. What about this? I'll put this here, 10-minute timer here, and whoever wants to go first, if everybody like the idea, 10 minutes is you. No debate, no interruptions. Basically, for 10 minutes, you are the guide of whether it's flat or round. and you present what it is, and we could just learn your side. And when you're finished, there's no counter argument, there's no debate. We just go to the next person and to present their side, and that way you could present fully 100%. It don't have to be one thing, just 10 minutes worth of what your best evidence or reasoning is, why the other side is wrong, whatever it is. And after the 10 minutes is up, the timer's right there, somebody can see it. Whoever wants to go next, you have your 10 minutes, and we could just go around the bend. It'll take like what, an hour and 10 minutes for all of us. So y'all down for that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Darryl.
Yeah.
Hey, I only have a few minutes. I just want to jump on and kind of
Oh,
say what's up to
awesome.
everybody.
Thanks, man. We appreciate it.
I'm probably not gonna be able to participate, but I will go back and listen in most definitely later on.
Sounds good, man. And maybe we could do it again. And I'm sure after we talk, we'll learn more things and maybe look into more things. And perhaps we could just keep it going on somebody else's channel, and maybe everybody will eventually come to a consensus. So thanks for joining for as long as you can.
Okay, I'm gonna go.
Too easy, big ball. Next time, man.
Anybody wants to go first? 10 minutes is your floor. No counter argument. You just boom. This is what it is. This is why that's not.
Go on, Jimmy. Gingers go first.
What do you say? You want to go C4? Okay, I'll go first. If nobody else wants to go.
Yeah. Hey, go for it, Darryl.
So I'll start the timer now. 10 minutes. Everybody will see it. And at 10 minutes, I'll stop wherever I'm at in it. So I would say, I would have to say the main thing for me is the pictures, because I went through like I noticed that when I first looked into Flat Earth, they said, you can't talk about the pictures because NASA is fake. And it caused me to start to look into other things. But I noticed that when I talked about other things, like for instance the distance over, like if a boat goes over the horizon, it goes from bottom up, and I saw people debating refraction and things like that. But I would say when Elon Musk came out and built his own rocket, not NASA. I learned about his story. He couldn't. He tried to buy rockets from the Russians, and that didn't really work out. And he couldn't really get people to work with him at the time. He wasn't a rocket guy. He was just a PayPal guy at the time, if I remember right. So the dude literally got books and studied rocketry and learned how to build rockets. I saw one of his videos of his early test flights where the things was crashing and blowing up and stuff like that. And eventually he got to the point where, of course, now he can fly. He could fly a rocket up, make the booster rocket land on its own. So he put videos on the rocket, cameras on the rocket, where you can see it recording from the time of liftoff to outer space from multiple cameras. There's also people there on the ground with cameras looking. Yeah, I mean, now, and what they say matches what NASA says as far as their satellite pictures, and what they say matches what Blue Origin says. Now there's even Blue Origin now. So in my experience, like even the other day, when Horace Sheet was up in the premiere, and one of the things he said was, that all the pictures you have of the Earth come from NASA, right? And I'm like, that's not an excuse anymore. There's Blue Origin, there's SpaceX, there's the Japanese agency. The Russians, I'm sure, have their own space agency because we have Russian astronauts up on the space station as well, even though now they're starting to ride with each other. But at this point, to me, it's non-debatable because, I mean, we have direct images and pictures. So I could see if we were talking about the composition of the Earth, then it'd be necessary to like do some kind of experiments on the ground and take some dirt and analyze it. But if we're talking strictly about what the Earth looks like, then all we need is what the Earth looks like. So to me, putting a camera on a rocket, shooting it up into the sky, that pretty much seals the deal. Um, and thanks for joining there. We just going 10 minutes and giving our our side of why we on the side that we on, Jose. And there's a 10 minutes, no counter argument. We're just going to give our side, then go on to the next person. The viewers can make their own decision. We can learn from that person, maybe come with a better argument when we debate next time. So, but that's the main thing for me, just the pictures. So now when I look at the pictures of NASA, and then or SpaceX and or Blue Origin, and they all match up. Then I come back down to, let's say, Rob Skiba's video, and going to what Ranty said. I can give him that. If you up in the air with a limited vision, you can see a circle. But one thing he didn't acknowledge is if you're up in the air and you're looking at a sphere, you also see a curve, and that matches what we see from farther away with the SpaceX with the car. It matches what we see with the Himawari. So then you come down to the Earth after you already have pictures, and everything makes sense on the Earth compared to that. For instance, like I made a video a few weeks ago about the sun making shadows on the clouds. And I remember when I was a kid, years ago, I used to live in New Orleans, and this was before I had any notion of, like, I would just, I don't consider myself a glober now. I consider myself somebody who just accepts the Earth is round. But at the time, I considered a glober because I didn't know. I just believed it. But I remember even as a kid, like the way, like there was Lake Pontchartrain nearby. So to the east of where I lived, there was a large lake. So there was like, I don't know how long it is, but it was a long distance where there was nothing to block the light. And then there was a lot of interstate in between that. Then there was a forest, and then you were at where I lived. And the land was such that the sun was actually casting shadows on the clouds from the trees. And I remember as a kid going outside and marveling at that, like wow, the sun is making shadows of the trees underneath the clouds. And I would just stand out and look at the shadows recede as the sun rose or set or whatever the case was. I can't remember the geography so much right now. But whatever the case was, I saw the shadows of the trees on the clouds. And then when I look at the Mount Rainier pictures, and so on and so forth, it all matches the view from space of a globe. In 2018, I went to go see the solar eclipse. I drove the 3 hours to go see the solar eclipse in the maximum depth. Saw it with my own eyes. That also matches the globe. One thing I did was I looked more into the solar eclipses, and do you know that the actual shadow of the solar eclipse, like they could calculate it perfectly, and the sort of, like, if you imagine you have an object and you cast in a shadow. Let's say the light source is, make sure the camera can see me. Let's say the light source is here, and the wall is here. If something is directly in the middle, let's say there's a circular object in the middle, the shadow is perfectly circular because it's right in line. But if the wall is not flat but is curved, the shadow will be slightly curved. And we see that with the shadow from the solar eclipse. If you look at the shadow of the moon, like if you go, let's say, to the NASA website and look at the way the shadow moves of the solar eclipse, and then you go to the solar eclipse and see that the shadow follows that same path, that path matches the way the shadow would have to move if the sun is that far away and the moon is that small and this close away and the earth is this big and the moon is moving exactly as they say. So one of the challenges that I made, and I have a series of challenge videos, is I pulled up and showed how astronomers and all predict solar eclipses centuries into the future. And I went there and saw one and saw that it was accurate, right where it was supposed to be. People all along the whole entire United States saw it right where it was supposed to be at the exact time, the exact width, and so on and so forth. I would challenge, to me, flat earthers would need to present, if their model is more accurate, they should be able to predict solar eclipses more accurately. They should be able to predict the time more accurately. They should be able to predict the location more accurately than, quote, globers do, if their knowledge is more accurate. So that's one thing that would have to happen. If we're going to discard pictures, then where's the flat Earth astronomical contributions? Where's the flat Earth predictive contributions? Why can't you predict solar eclipses and lunar eclipses? I hear people making up stuff like Lilith, and there's no proof of it. It's just because a book says so, like Anthony Riley said. You know, he wanted me to accept it as a Lilith because it says so on the cover of a book. But the scientists, we could see the moon, of course. They've mapped the movement of the moon, and lo and behold, the same people that plot the phases of the moon, right, to the minute basically, also plot the location of the moon in between the Earth and the Sun during a solar eclipse. And at that exact time, based upon this model of a globe, there is a solar eclipse. At the exact location they predict, at the exact duration they predict. I mean, to me, it just all lines up and seals the deal. At this point, I have yet to see a coherent model of the flat Earth. Whenever someone has presented a model, and I looked into it and started to debunk it, then usually they change the subject, or they say that person doesn't really know what they're talking about. You should talk to this person, or we're still trying to figure out and learn. If you're going to convince me that the Earth is flat, then you can't still be trying to figure it out and not producing results that surpass the globe. If your knowledge is better, then you should be able to produce something that surpasses the people who you say are lying or fake or false. It's kind of odd that these people who are lying or don't know what they're talking about consistently can predict solar eclipses, lunar eclipses, and so on and so forth, transitions of Venus, retrogrades of Venus, and so forth, and the planets. So I have 5 more seconds. That's my piece. Who wants to go next?
Hey, Jose, go for it, buddy.
Want to go, Jose? And it's all on you. There'll be no debate.
Yeah.
There'll be no counter talk. You're the master. You know everything about it. Whatever you say goes. And then we'll go to the next person for 10 minutes. Let me know when you're ready.
I'll do it. Yeah, I probably don't gonna take the whole 10 minutes.
Whenever you want to stop, let me know.
Let's do it.
All right, here we go.
Hello, everybody. I just shared the
Hey.
show. Am I being heard right? Good.
Oh, you
Yeah,
hear you.
good, mate. You're good.
Yeah, just shared the show, so hopefully you got a little more traffic. You are a new name that I haven't seen before. Just only the last week you pop in, so cool on you. You're doing creating content and giving people a chance to speak.
Thank you, sir.
Used to be a flat earther, big time, 100%. Fell so deep in the rabbit hole. So I was I just fell in the trap. Clicking one video on YouTube, that took me to the next and to the next, and maybe 6 or 7 months after, I was doing my first video on YouTube, Flat Earth: The Awakening. But how did I took the flat Earth? Just with what I saw on YouTube. I was just had a regular education in the school in Puerto Rico. Everything about space, science, and physics wasn't pushed too hard up to 12, to high school graduation. So I knew just the basics. When I came across this, I learned the heliocentric model through the eyes of a flat earther, through the eyes of Jeranism, Globebusters, Mark Sargent, Nathan Oakley. These were my guys for me to learn science, how Earth works, the distances, the scales. So I just got educated on how Earth works through the eyes of a flat earther. So yeah, I don't say it was a mistake. It was a good choice because I was always interested in how the universe works, aliens, a little bit of conspiracies about the ancient aliens. But I didn't realize that I was so interested in learning the distances, the physics, the geometry of Earth. And I got fascinated with the long distance observations. So much that I bought me a cheap zooming camera, about $100 on Facebook Market, and it was a Canon PowerShot, smaller 50 times zoom, and I did a bunch of little observations on Clearwater, Florida, and it was most of the times it was summer, it was a lot of mirage and mirroring effects, and I caught a bunch of cool phenomena that people still they can look back. I got all my content on my channel. And I enjoyed the observation so much that I did a little GoFundMe to buy me a P900 that led to I owned the camera that Jeranism from the big channel used to own. I returned the money back to the people that donated on my GoFundMe campaign. I never cashed them. An anonymous donor bought the camera from Jeranism. He was selling it, so somebody bought it from him, from him to me, for me to own, because I had the passion to go out and do observations. And I always appreciate you for that. I talk to you, and whatever we are standing in, what side of the argument, is cool, because whenever I go out and do observations, I post them, and anybody can use them and interpret it the way you want. That's the whole idea. If we want to create content, we should be able to share to each other from both sides. I decided to step back and then do my own observations, take a look what I really know about Earth. And I always refuse to look up to the sky, to the simple thing like the sunrise and sunset. I didn't want to look how the rotation of the stars work on any model. I say, we live on Earth, I'm going to do land-to-land observations. When I figure out what I'm standing on, when I catch these clear images, and when I'm happy with it, then I will decide, what am I going to do? I start catching observations, obstruction, big time from the bottom up, with my new the Jeran, I call it. I caught a lot of obstruction, bridges, little buildings, a tower, a lighthouse, and I call these clear days. Clear days, I mean, with nothing or barely no distortion whatsoever, with very little mirage or mirroring. So I did some numbers. I brought it to people, give me some feedback. What do I got here? And then I put myself in I step back. I say, how can I explain this on a flat Earth? So I could choose one of the 60 excuses for flat Earth, how things disappear from the bottom up. And people say, there's no 60 excuses. It's actually 60 explanations. So there are at least 60 alternatives on how things disappear from the bottom up on a flat surface. But geometrically talking, realistically talking, I don't buy into it. I got 5 minutes explanation how my lighthouse disappeared 4 stripes in the bottom, and I could only see 3 in the top, peeking above the little bushes of the water. It works on a globe. I decided to adopt the globe model back, a sphere rotating, the sun, the moon, and the stars very far away. I understand everything. I cannot debate for crap. I was never a big debater. I had the questions. I got the answers. I took the decision to accept the answers because I didn't want to be flowing in the limbo with no illustration on how Earth looks. Is it flat, infinite? Is it a closed little pond? Is it a dome? No dome? Is it more land? How does it look? How the sun and the moon and the stars? So Earth as a system, I could never picture it. And I had a little bit of snippets here and there. We don't need a model. We don't live in a model. I understand that. I need to have that in here and in here to believe something. So the flat Earth belief, I decided to kick down the curve and accept reality, which is the rotating sphere. Everything works beautifully, 100%. As the scale and the distances, flat Earth cannot grasp a scale issue. And I understand everything. I see everything now. Am I looking for an alternative? I am. Yes, I am looking for an alternative. That's why I got my little channel. I'm doing these hangouts because I enjoy giving people the opportunity to talk and present alternatives. Am I biased in my show? That doesn't have to do anything with my opinion or my take on the shape of the Earth. The Earth is a sphere. Everything works 100%. And flat Earth, I see it as a dream that people want to follow and reach the unexistent. I give you power. Maybe you're going to make a discovery. You make me research a lot of things that I never questioned before. I consider myself a flat earther in heart because I don't take anything on face value. I have to see it by myself. I have to research it by myself. I'm an auto hoaxer. Everything I see is not the way I've been presented with. I have to cross-reference, put the pieces together, and then reach my own conclusion. Everybody should take that spot. Don't be an auto hoaxer, but don't just take anything that somebody tells you. This is a piece of gold, and then they're giving you a piece of dog crap with paint spray in a gold. You gotta research it for yourself. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I kind of went a little all over the place, but
Hey,
I'm
it's your
done.
show.
Yeah, the rest of the time is yours, brother.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
sir.
Yeah,
Thanks for
that
sharing.
was great. That was great, Jose.
We heard two globers, so why don't we go to a flather, a flat earther? Who wants to go? Red pill? Let me know when you're ready.
All right.
And again, this
Okay.
is Red Pill's time. He knows it. He's the man. Is all his. No counter argument. Here we go.
Okay. All right. So the best flat Earth proofs, the best reason to think the Earth is flat. Um, I would say the utter lack of proof for the sphere. Um, and I think that's basically how it works. You know, the sphere, the globe, is the unbelievable claim. That is the wild assertion. Um, that's why I always say that the burden of proof is on the sphere side. Um, Another issue with the heliocentric sphere model is that so many of the globe proofs have a really compelling flat Earth alternative explanation. I don't think anybody, even if you're a diehard, well, the diehard globers will probably deny it, but I think any reasonable person can at least say that. Let's just take sunsets for example. Okay, fine. You have your heliocentric globe Earth explanation. Great. the Earth is tilting back away from the sun, and the sun is the actual physical geometry is what's causing the sunset. It has nothing to do with perspective, and I know that word gets a lot of hate, but that's the principle at work. Um, So it's just like there's always a flat Earth alternative explanation, man. There's always a flat Earth alternative explanation. And that's the problem. And I think that gets to the core of what's going on here with the globe. The reason that you can always fit a flat Earth alternative explanation where the globe claims to have proven that it's a globe, be it sunsets or curvature or lack thereof curvature. I think part of the reason you can always stuff a flat Earth explanation in there is because the globe model, I think a lot of it is based on a lot of ambiguity. A lot of it is based on things that aren't really concrete. And I think that's by design. I've come to the conclusion that that's by design. The reason the globe model, I asked the other day, I think it was one of Jose's shows, or it might have been Chris Berry's. I asked, can you globers provide me with direct measurement of Earth's curvature? Not, oh, there's some obscure shit happening 20 miles away on the horizon, and it kind of looks like things are missing bottom up. It's just so retarded. Oh, no, don't directly measure. See, because things disappearing bottom up is not curvature. That's obstruction, which at best is an effect of curvature, but not curvature itself. I mean, we're talking about curvature, curve. Obstruction is not curvature, it's an effect of curvature. So, okay, why haven't you guys have had 2,000 plus years to directly measure curvature? Okay, so okay, let's prove we live on a sphere by pointing up at the stars. So we already pointed at the thing 25 miles away, on in the distance, disappearing bottom up, right? Now let's point to the stars. And we're going to use all those things far, far away. I think this is by design because they know that if they had to prove directly, concretely, down to earth that we live on a sphere, they would fail. And look at all the efforts to prove we live on a sphere. Slice Bar Kane had his water level experiment, and that shit came back inconclusive. I believe that was the result. I'm pretty sure I'm not wrong there. And he's a Glober, diehard Globe defender. Came back inconclusive. It's so hard. It's hard to prove the shape of what we live on, whether you think it's flat or it's a globe. Sometimes I go out and there's obstruction bottom up. Sometimes I go out and I make observations and you see way more than you're supposed to. This is a tricky thing that we're trying to solve here. And as a quick side note, I think it's really disingenuous to just assert that flat earthers are a bunch of idiots. I think it's disingenuous as hell to say that they're not at least there isn't at least a tough riddle to be solved here. I think to just wave flat earthers off as all a bunch of dumb morons who need to be censored and ridiculed. I think that's just the Globers, defending their model. And by defending their model, they have to make sure that anybody who questions it is outcast from society into the fringes and called crazy and stupid. So everything is about, over there, 25 miles away, and then, up in the sky, look at the stars. I want direct measurements, bro. I want to see direct measurement of curvature. And I think that's by design because they won't be able to do it. And I think when your model is so based on ambiguous evidence, things 25 miles away in the horizon, lights in the sky that are supposed to prove you live on a sphere, when you're always appealing to such ambiguous stuff, there's room for interpretation. And that's why you could always stuff a flat earth alternative explanation in there. Okay, Eratosthenes, 2 sticks in the ground, you got your shadows cast. Oh, but wait, that just depends on your presuppositions about the distance to the sun. And then it could work on a flat earth. And then they say, well, now we have 3. If you have 3 sticks/wells instead of 2, okay, but then what? How did Eratosthenes' experiment just stand for 1,000 years unquestioned? If it turns out you needed an extra well, Carl Sagan in his show Cosmo did a whole show on Eratosthenes, and he's literally saying 2 sticks/wells are enough to prove the Earth is a sphere. Now Neil Tyson comes out and says it's not enough. You need 3. Okay, so that's a big fucking problem, don't you think? Kind of an issue, right? So they say you need 3 sticks now, and it only works with a faraway sun, and it only works on a sphere, and that's what they call the linear versus nonlinear function, which I'll admit I haven't fully investigated that claim to see if it holds up to scrutiny. I have a feeling it will fall apart. So yeah, how much time I got left?
You have 2 minutes and 15 seconds.
Okay, thanks. So yeah, so I think that's the biggest. Okay, so yeah, so that's what I think is the best proof for flat Earth is first and foremost the lack of evidence, the lack of conclusive evidence for the globe, and then add on to that the fact that you could always have a flat Earth alternative. And to sum it up again, the reason you can always just put a flat Earth alternative explanation in there is because of how ambiguous the globe proof is. I want someone to directly measure curve. The closest thing I've seen from the globe side is Slice Barkane's thing, and that came back inconclusive. Brian Mullen, before he got ridiculed out, into obscurity, which I hope that's not part of the reason Jose Gigi Gonzalez has gone back to the globe. I hope, because he's in there, he's saying he can't help but shut his mouth in the comment there on the little message on the side. So I got to jab right back at you now, Jose. I hope that you didn't go back to the globe out of pressure. Brian Mullen allegedly, he had to shut his mouth because there's pressure. There's pressure. If you question scientific consensus, even though it is the literal history Go read Thomas Kuhn's landmark book, The Structure of Scientific Revolution.
And if you'll
This
allow
is
me, Red
revered.
Pill, just for a moment, since you got a counter argument, let me give you an extra 2 minutes. So take another 2 minutes.
But yeah, and it wasn't even a card argument. Jose was just putting a silly little comment. So
No,
I don't need the extra.
but really, go ahead and continue that point.
Okay. What point was I making? I just forgot it completely.
Or just take off wherever you want to go. Take another 2 minutes.
Okay, all right. Anyways, so yeah, so yeah, you will be ridiculed, you will be attacked, duh. And yeah, that's where I was going. There's a highly revered book among science called The Structure of Scientific Revolutions. The author of the book coined the term paradigm shifts to describe how science goes through these phases, these paradigm shifts, where at one point, what scientific consensus think is true about our world gets shredded to pieces, torn up, and thrown away for a whole totally new paradigm that not necessarily contradicts what came before it, though sometimes that is the case, but also changes the way we thought the world works. This is the history of science. So anybody who would deny that and then, make it basically blasphemy to attack anybody who dares question what the current consensus is, it's just ridiculous. I've rambled. I think that basically, that's a brief summary. That I think that gets the job done.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you sharing. And we had two globers and now one flat earther. How about we, Matrix? You want to go ahead and balance it out with another flat earther?
Sure, I guess.
All right. Whenever you go, I'll start the 10 minutes.
All right. All right.
Here we go.
How's the mic?
He's going. Oh, we hear you good.
All right. So what convinced me was it was more of the doubting the globe and these answers and not really giving thoughts about these things before, about the distance to the sun, the moon and all these things. I never really, I just kind of went with consensus because that's really how reality is laid out for us. We kind of just tend to follow the crowd. So when these questions started coming up, then I started to question, and then after something that I thought was concrete as, the place that we lived in, it wasn't as concrete because there was a lot of questions that people could not answer still to this day. So it's very difficult for me to see it as a sphere flying through space, chasing the sun while Polaris is always in front of it. I mean, those are a lot of movements, man, that you have to calculate. And they're claiming they went to the moon, and they're claiming that it's a Van Allen belt. Like, come on, how does something just pop up into existence after they already went to the moon and becomes a problem? That doesn't sound logical to me. And they can't, how they say that they can't go because they can't replicate 1969 technology, man. Come on, bro. We got geniuses over here on YouTube making airplanes and shit out of foam, fucking drones out of sticks, man. And they can't replicate the old shit they did in 1969. That shit don't make sense. Logically, it doesn't make sense because technology doesn't go back. It goes forward. You know what I'm saying? And there was never one person studying one thing. There's always a group of people like us that are always interested in something. So whoever built that technology, even though the person isn't alive himself, there is still a community of people that helped him build that. Where are those people? Those people disappeared too, right? That it doesn't make any sense that they can't replicate that technology. It doesn't make sense. So at that point, I had to question that moon landing. Flat Earth, like I said earlier, Flat Earth came after that, and then I realized why they couldn't go to the moon. because there's no moon to go. You can't land on the thing. It's a luminary. Then I started thinking about what these people are telling us about the stars. Then I went and with a lot of effort and a lot of work, I bought myself a P900. Then I started looking at the stars. And then I realized, shit, these don't look like what I used to think they look like. I used to see them. I have pictures of these things. So whatever people want to say, they could go fuck themselves. I got pictures of these things. I've seen these things, you know, they're not what they say they are. So what are these stars? There's a lot of questions and a lot of things that people just want to say that, oh, these dissatisfied because they give you some data and some graphics. The best things in the world, the most natural things in the world, you can't put on a graph, on math. You can't explain love. You can't explain things like that. You can't explain why people yawn all at the same time. Mathematics, you can't explain that. These are things that happen, right? And we all know that these things happen, but nobody could put it in the mathematical form. Does that mean it doesn't exist? So just because people present to you pretty colors and nice numbers, and yes, it makes sense. A lot of shit can make sense when you want it to make sense. How much time I got?
Yeah, 5 more minutes. 5 minutes and 42 seconds, actually.
Right. So, yeah. And the thing that Jose said that he now understands the model, you know, there's a lot of diagram, there's a lot of cosmic universe. Like, it isn't that complicated to conceive. You know what I'm saying? The sun is far away, but the problem is they just simplify it to the point that the sun is far away. All right, then I question these things like, okay, there's a vacuum between us and the sun, right? There's supposed to be no molecules, no nothing. It's a void, right? So how is the sun carrying its energy through nothingness and then coming up over here? Is it teleporting? Is it a teleporting energy? How far could you go to the sun before you feel its heat? If you don't, you know, what temperature is space? Is it hot? Is it cold? What kind of material is the ISS made out of, right? What kind of equipment do they have to maintain it? Do they have a machine shop, right? Because, you know, it's the ISS. A lot of weird shit that they just can't go to Home Depot and buy, right? They have to be able to make these parts. You know what I'm saying? On the fly like that. You know, people don't think about these things. Doors, hinges, you know what I'm saying? Fucking O-rings and the machine, these things. What are these things made out of that could resist the extreme heat of and all the electrical bullshit going on in space? What is this material made out of? You know, and something else about them claiming that we live on a sphere and us having a molten lava core. Like, how do they know this when we've only dug supposedly 8 miles deep? How they've already concluded what was supposedly in the middle? We've only dug 8 miles. Does that sound like it makes any sense? Or at that point they could calculate anything into existence because we don't know. And another thing, how is it that we're talking about space and black holes, and we have an entire ocean that everybody has access to, that nobody knows what the hell is going on in that ocean? There is supposedly an ocean under the ocean. What the hell is going on there? What kind of creatures are there? And we're talking about space, something that nobody has access to. Right? That doesn't sound like it makes sense to me. It just sounds like it's a way to entertain people and distract them from what's really going on.
Three minutes, by the way. 3 minutes.
Yeah. So at that moment, and then after Flat Earth, I started discovering other things, you know, like how the system used words to deceive people, how you could think that you're saying one thing, and because you think the word means one thing, it means another thing, like understand. Understand doesn't simply mean do you comprehend, right? It means do you stand under this? right? So when a police officer stops you and he says, "Do you understand these charges?" What you think you're agreeing to is, "Oh yes, I comprehend what you're saying." What he's asking you is, "Do you stand by these charges? Are you accepting them?" And you very ignorantly you say yes. So see, just like this example, there's thousands of words that we think we know what they mean. Words like refraction, looming, these things that they just calculate them into existence that could pretty much be the same thing all in one. Right? There's a very sophisticated system and people that is going on here that they're able to do these things to people and just make these stories and people just have to just either believe it or not. I choose not to believe it unless they can make space and everything else accessible. Not even space. As far as I know, we're not even allowed to explore this very land that we're on. As far as I know, at a certain point, if you go out into the ocean, you get turned back with guns. So what is that about? Is it that we're kept in this place? You know, and how much time do I have?
You have a minute left.
All right. So let me talk previously before I went into the flat earth. I was an atheist for a while. Right, I was into the Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris's, those guys, right? To me, what they were saying was brilliant, right? Until I started coming into the understanding of a flat earth and the implications of it. Because it's not just watching the globe morph into flat, right? You have to then think about, damn, if we're not flying through space and we're at a stationary place, that means or either somebody created us here or put us here. Any way, shape, or form, this is for us, right? At that point, things have to change in you, right? You understand that there might not be a white guy with a long beard looking after you. You know what I'm saying? But there's something going around that could be considered God. Could be the algorithm of this world. I don't know, right? I'm not saying he's watching over you. I'm not saying he's gonna judge you. I'm just saying he's the reason the way things are. He's the programming of this thing. You realize these things after flat Earth. It has nothing to do with religion. It's just a realization of you're not flying through space in an empty void.
Awesome,
right?
man.
I'm not.
Thanks for sharing. And your 10 minutes just got up. I gave you a little bit extra. I appreciate your sharing, man. I could tell I was heartfelt.
Thank you.
Welcome, man. Who we got next? We have 2 globers. We have 2 flat earthers. We have another. How many flat earthers and globers do we have left? Do we have a third flat earther on the panel?
You should know, Banzo Bandit was a flat earther until a few days ago, so he can go last maybe. He's just the new converted flat to globe.
Okay.
C4 can do it.
There you go,
C4?
Jimmy.
Yeah,
There you
man.
go, Jimmy.
Yeah, give me 1 second. Yep, absolutely. Hold on.
And before you go, let's see if we can get another current flat earther. Is there another current flat earther who's listening or that somebody knows of who wants to join as well, so we could balance it out? I'll post the link one more time, and just in case somebody want to join. But I think we only have round earthers left, so keep in mind if everybody else is a round earther, it's not because I pick anybody or anything like that. That's just the way it is. But I'll post a link into the chat one more time, and see if we can get another round earther in. Excuse me, a flat earther in. So cool, C4. I'm about to start the timer. The floor is yours. Again, you're the man. Whatever you say goes. You know exactly how it is. Just whatever move you, and you got your 10 minutes whenever you start.
Cool, man. I appreciate that. I definitely won't need 10 minutes, and I'm very sorry because I was doing other things while almost everybody else was talking. So I might bring up a couple points that were already said.
You're sure.
Yeah, I was doing other things. I'm sorry. So this is why I believe my evidence that it's a sphere, or my evidence why I think it's the shape that I think it is.
Oh yeah, well, whatever whatever conclusion side you on, your best evidence, your best lack of evidence for the other side, and it's all on you. You can talk about this is what it really is. You could talk about that's why that's wrong. You know, it could be a personal belief, just whatever it is, your best. This is why I'm on the side that I'm on that you have.
Cool. All right, great. Thank you. I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so yeah, man. So some of the best evidences that I have that it's a sphere is the sky in the northern hemisphere spins counterclockwise to the southern hemisphere. I mean, and we all can do that. You know, if we go to each hemisphere, we can see that, and we can look at that and do that, and that we can all also look at other planets through a telescope, whether you believe they're fake or not. We can see them rotating, and see how they act and behave. Yeah, so let's see. I wrote a bunch of stuff down. It's all kind of jumbled up, but let's see. The sun. I feel like the sun is like a big thing on the globe side that it proves that that it is a globe. If the sun is going past my vanishing point, but why does it disappear all the way from bottom up? If it's going past my vanishing point, shouldn't it just like slowly go out of my sight? If it's going past my view, it's going straight away from me until I can't see it. It's getting smaller and smaller. It should just disappear, but you don't see that. I mean, I'm in Florida, so I can go out on the ocean and see it go down below the horizon and go all the way from bottom up till it's gone. Okay, so it's all right. So if it's a big sun in my view, and it disappears, why can I still see stars? Where are the stars? Are they close? Are they closer than the sun? Are they farther away from the sun? I'm still kind of confused on that. I'm sure I've heard the arguments, but I'm still kind of confused. I don't know what the argument of stars are on a flat Earth. What they usually say is, again, I'm not trying to criticize anybody. They just say we don't know what the sun is, we don't know what the stars are, so we can't have an argument. And then the other thing, the sun, Mercury and Venus. All right, Mercury and Venus on our model, we can see them traversing the sun. But if the sun is that small and local, how big is Venus and Mercury at that point? Because we can see them traversing the sun sometimes. So are they just like little, like how big are they? What are they at that point? Are they just little dots, just little lights, like they say, in front of the small local sun? I don't know. That's just a question I've always had. Like I've always asked. Like if the sun is small and local, but we can see Mercury traverse the sun, what is it? What's going on there? You know, like how is that working? And that's just a question I've always asked. Always had in my mind, anyways. And then yeah, all right. So we can see satellites and we can see the ISS. What are they? They're not just lights in the sky, because there's been many observations that another transit, the ISS can transit the moon and sun, and we can actually see the exact shape of it, and then we can also calculate its speed and altitude. But the opposing side says it's just up there, or it's filled with helium, or it's whatever. Again, I'm not exactly sure, but we can see it transiting the moon, and we can see the shape, and then from that we can do calculations to get its height and speed going across the moon or the sun. Let's see. Well, I think that's all I wrote down so far. Again, I'm sorry, guys. I wasn't really listening. I got distracted by other people.
You could
I got
repeat the
distracted by
same
other.
thing. Yeah, it's up to you. Have
Well,
5 minutes left. It's your show. If you happen to talk about the same thing somebody talked about, that's fine. Long as it's the best things you have.
Yeah, no, again, yeah, I was just, I jumped up for a little bit. I was conversating on Discord and stuff like that, and so I'm sorry if I said the same thing as anybody else. Um, but yeah, no, there's, I guess that's all I got right this second. I'm sorry I wasn't more prepared for this. Um, it, it, this whole thing is very confusing to me. Well, I'm confused why people don't see what I see or what other people see. And this whole thing has gotten to now it's gotten to like definitions and semantics and all that stuff. And for me, it's just all about observations. And I did the Eratosthenes experiment. I did it on the day that I was supposed to do it on my solar noon. I think it was like 125 on my solar noon, and Florida said "fuck you" to me because it's decided to get cloudy. So I couldn't get the proper measurements that I wanted to get. I couldn't get any, but I did the day after, and on the Eratosthenes experiment on the equinox, you can do it the day before and the day after. You can do it a couple days before and the day after. The calculations will be slightly varied. I forget by how much. I think it's like zero .4. I have it all written down, but the next day I did it was a sunny day, and I got my measurements, and I also took a bunch of other not measurements, but I put a dot with a shadow ended on the stick. With a stick made the shadow, I put a dot. So a bunch of my measurements and my just dots made a straight line. So that was the path of the sun traversing the sky in a straight line. But to me, on a flat Earth, if it's circling above, there would have to be some kind of. It wouldn't be straight. I mean, maybe if I did that over a long period of time, maybe I guess you could see a start of a curve of the sun. But as far as me, I got a straight path of the sun. But the Eratosthenes experiment also does a couple other things. When you do the Eratosthenes experiment on different latitudes, all right, what you will get if you calculate it, you will get the circumference of the Earth, yes, but you also get that for each observer on a different latitude, the sun will have to be in a different altitude for everybody. So that's pretty much all I have at this point.
Thanks for sharing, man. I appreciate it.
All right. Yeah, thank you.
And one good thing, by the way, y'all, I wasn't prepared either. None of us prepared. So I think that actually helped us to just come with the things that's really core to us. So, you know what I mean? So it's awesome. We have 2 more people, 20 more minutes. And I think we was talking about keeping bandsaw last. So you want to go right now, Sean?
Yeah, no worries. Sorry about that.
Awesome. So here we go. I'll start the 10 minutes.
You're right. It is going to be completely off the cuff because
hey, it's your show, whatever. Hey, whether it's talking flatter down, whether it's talking globe up, whether it's evidence, whatever it is, it's your show. You're the man. No counter argument, and we're just going to listen and learn.
All right, thanks, sir.
You're welcome.
I kind of like to always go at this with the idea that it has to be a discussion, and with that being a discussion. Keeping all that personal stuff out, all the name calling and all that good stuff. You don't get anywhere. No one's going to learn. No one's doesn't even hear anybody when they're doing that. That's kind of how I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to learn things and understand things. With that being said, that was the reason I knew Flat Earth wasn't to be. The things I didn't understand, things that the globe explains, for instance, when it comes to the sunset, sunrise, there's too many things or observations that we can put together as our evidence that we have to live on a curve, on a sphere, rather than a flat Earth. I guess some would say that Flat Earth has a alternative explanation, but I mean that alternative explanation then needs to work with other explanations. It's never just one situation. It's a system. For instance, when you're talking the sunrise, sunset, when you're standing, if you're standing facing south on the northern hemisphere, no matter where you're standing, if it was flat and it was circling above the earth, you would see that sun come from behind your left shoulder, and sunset would be over your right shoulder. That's not what we see, because the sun's not circling around above us like that. It's also another reason why we know we're rotating, and it's not rotating above us. The angular size of the sun doesn't change. If it was that clear that it did, because it was local, I mean, there would be just evidence left and right, not shoddy filters, not understanding how to take make these observations and present them. But one video, two videos of blurry objects that can't really get everything out of isn't considered to me to be a flat Earth proof. I think flat Earth asking for globe proof, regardless of what they're told, will continue to run that word salad to make sure that it's not clear. If we explain if it's explained to somebody how something works, there's only two ways they can go. They can either not care to listen, or they could look into it and try to understand what's being said. How you would change anything that's involved in science and is how the current understanding of it is, you would first need to completely understand whatever subject it is. If we're talking gravity, you need to understand everything that's known about gravity, and then go towards those alternatives. It's never, I kind of know something, now I can debunk something. You have to know everything about it. And flat Earth just doesn't provide enough alternatives with reality involved either. When it comes to this whole refraction and looming and all that stuff, because they're not, a lot of these content creators aren't being honest with reality and the viewers. What's ending up happening is they're not explaining and showing the many documents and explanations that explain how refraction and all these mirages happen based on the fact that we live on a sphere. It's not just some weird anomaly that happens and no one can explain except for flat Earth. Flat Earth can't explain how they're coming to the conclusions they are using the numbers, the index refraction for a sphere. Wouldn't work. Let me think. When it comes to curvature, I think a lot of people or a lot of flat earthers are purposely ignoring the explanation that's given to them. I've said this till I'm blue in the face. 8 inches square per mile is not the exact measurement. No one says it's the exact measurement except from someone who doesn't understand, because the 8 inches per square mile is a layman term to explain to someone in a real quick explanation of how the curvature works. If you notice, even Mick West's curve calculator, the sphere that you're calculating everything on, it's a nice smooth ball. We don't live on one of those. So that's just a very telltale sign of how you should know 8 inches square per mile is a quick explanation of curvature and how it works. There are many offsets due to the fact that the Earth is not a smooth ball. And not only have many shown this and shown exactly how this works, I'm actually in the process of doing exactly that on the request of Mind of God earlier on my stream. So hopefully by tomorrow afternoon, I should have a pretty good explanation for how curvature is observed and measured anywhere. And maybe some people will listen. I doubt many will. But at the same time, you can't just make up science. You can't decide when and when not to use terms as they're supposed to. Anthony Riley has one of those issues where people need to understand that there are scientific terms and then there's general terms. These are very clearly stated, but not shown by Flat Earth, because then it would just destroy what they're trying to say, which is crazy to me because Flat Earth denies science, yet uses the science or thinks they're using the science to debunk the globe, when in reality, they're all they're doing is coming across globe phenomena and calling it evidence. It doesn't work that way. Anybody can continue to believe that you need millions of dollars to do these observations and tests, but the difference is that if that were the case, then how are so many of the flat Earth content creators here on YouTube? How are they going out and making observations themselves? That's not the problem. We can do tests. We can do experiments to figure out where we live. It's whether or not they're willing to be honest about the results or honest about how they're coming to the conclusions they are. If you're going to deny gravity, you're going to have to deny buoyancy. If you're going to deny buoyancy, you're going to have to start denying weight. Unless there's an explanation for these things. There's never an explanation. There's never an actual alternative idea for how things work. It's make up a word, use a term that's not supposed to be, and we'll just argue our way through the rest of it. But there hasn't been any flat Earth evidence. I was a flat earther. I searched my ass off for it. Wasn't there. Wasn't like I'm not looking for it. Not like I'm trying to debunk anything. I'm just trying to find out where I live. And as of right now, the globe model explains a lot more. Better yet, it explains everything that I understand so far. And everything that I'm learning to understand is turning out the same way as well. I'm not sure if that's all my time, but
You have 1 minute left.
Okay. That's pretty much the gist of it. I mean, it sums Flat Earth up in a pretty quick stance on how I feel about it. I honestly think that it's not so much a everyone doesn't understand situation, because majority wouldn't understand a lot of these things that we're talking about or learning. As I'm in that same boat. The problem would be the people that claim to understand these things and change and make these alternatives to how things work. That can't happen. Science doesn't work that way. Adjusting the scientific method to or actually questioning the scientific method would be more of a make less sense, seeing how it's not really a structured have to. It's a tool bag for science to make sure that other scientists are accountable for the things that they're doing. I guess you would have to just start explaining stuff.
Awesome, man. We appreciate it. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
And we have one more left, 10 more minutes, then I'll wrap up the stream. Bandsaw, you want to go ahead and give us your best evidence for, your best evidence against, your best what got you where you are. I'll start the 10 minutes when you start.
Yeah, thanks, Darryl. Look, I'll give it my best shot. And like I said earlier on, I came into the flat Earth debate argument from a very simplistic point of view. You know, like a few other people here, liking a good conspiracy theory type of thing, and that's how I really got stuck down the rabbit hole, and looking things at a very local level. Now, the flat Earth has some great explanations on a local level, but there's no, from what I've been able to find out. There's no real evidence on the larger scale that explains things as well as what the globe model does. There is a leap of faith with the flat Earth model that you have to take. The way things can be predicted outside or off of Earth, there has to be a leap of faith. Now, none of us here can realistically jump in a rocket ship and fly up and prove it for ourselves. We can't do that, you know. And to expect us to be able to do that at this point of our lives or this point of Earth's evolution is fairly unrealistic. To even expect that. Yes, the experiments and stuff that are argued about, whether it's Cavendish or rockets working in vacuums and all and these sorts of things, I can poke holes in these things like everyone else can. I've taken the time to actually read the whole of the Cavendish experiment and seen exactly the sort of efforts that were taken to allow for different variables and different tolerances and stuff, and yet that experiment initially that was conducted, I can find a lot of holes in it. Me personally, that doesn't quite jerry. The vacuum, the rockets working in the vacuums of space. On a very simplistic level, that kind of makes a little bit of sense if you don't understand it. And I did some digging around, tried to do a little bit of research, stuff that you would see on YouTube. And, on the globe side, YouTube is mocked a lot, but you can, if you dig deep enough, you can find some pretty good explanation. And a lot of the experiments that I saw, I could pick holes in the experiments that were showing. But I did actually come across a really, really good one where the fellow, it took him 6 months to put this experiment together. And I thought, you know what? That makes a lot of sense, to me, right? And that is quite possible. But for me to go in outer space and for anyone else to go in outer space and actually visibly see Earth rotating around, it ain't going to happen. We're just kidding ourselves. It ain't going to happen. For any of us. So you have to have trust in people. We all trust people in our lives, and to just not trust anyone that are giving these explanations. And a lot of these people give these explanations in good faith. And yes, the government lies to us. We all know the governments lie to us and organisations lie to us and mislead us with lots of different things. But to cover up something on such a huge scale, it's just mind-boggling that could even be pulled off. And you've got to open your eyes, just a little bit. And it's good to have skeptical eyes looking at things. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But there is so much stuff that is presented. You got to say, like, guys, come on, the place we're on is a beautiful place, and regardless if it's flat or globe, what is it changing at the end of the day in the bigger picture? If you believe in a creator, there's still going to be a creator waiting for you, regardless. Direct measurements. I hear this thing of direct measurements all the time. Where's these direct measurements of the globe? Well, where are the direct measurements of a flat Earth, apart from on a local level? Where is the measurement from Melbourne here to New York on the flat Earth model? Has anyone done that? I don't see any direct measurements of any of these sorts of things. All these measurements are done over over short bodies of water or short land masses and stuff. And here we go. Here's the flat Earth. They are over such short distances. They're not over vast distances. There's no vast measurements of anything. Anyone knows that atmospheric conditions distort what we see. And having a lack of respect for the people that go out and do their jobs on a day-to-day basis, I think is disingenuous, calling them out and not actually respecting, what they're doing, because they're just people like you and me. The higher echelons of government organisations and NASA and all this and whatnot, they might be hiding stuff from us, but lots of times they hide things, for good reasons. And yes, they mislead us and stuff like that. Probably misleading for good reasons or bad reasons. That's neither here nor there. But at some stage, it's like they're not hiding the fact that we're living on a flat, infinite plane. If it is infinite, there's got to be some boundaries. Infinite is a pretty big place. There's got to be some boundaries to what we are living on. I think, personally, I've seen no direct evidence presented of any dome, of any ice wall, any lands beyond an ice wall. What's actually in the Antarctica, I don't know. If the military protecting it and the treaties signed and all that sort of stuff seems to be a pretty good thing thrown out there. There is something out there because the military's there, protecting the Antarctica. No one can travel freely. We can travel freely anywhere around the Earth. Like the only place, really, you can't go. And which one of us want to go to the Antarctica really and get a couple of huskies and hook it up to a sled and just be pulled all over the Antarctica willy-nilly? None of us really want to do that.
I would love to do that.
Sorry. Yeah, well, that'd be pretty cool, Sean. Yeah, I must say, if I had a couple of buddies and a couple of warm jumpers, for sure. But to actually do it is it's fairly practical, I must say. And to think that they're really stopping us from doing it, I think that too is fairly disingenuous to say that. That any other country, you can jump on a plane and go to any other country and travel freely around those countries. Yes, there's a couple of examples, North Korea or whatnot, where you can't freely travel around them. But yeah, you can get in a tourist bus and they'll take you and see different bits and pieces. You just don't go to the port in North Korea, and that's about it. You can't, you can go inland.
30 seconds, by the way.
Yeah, no dramas, mate. No dramas. But yeah, I think I think it comes down to honesty and just being honest with yourself. Have a look into things. That's fine. But be honest with what is being presented to you by people that know way more than what you do. And if you do that, you'll come to a conclusion that will sit comfortably with you.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you sharing.
Too easy, man. Too easy, John.
It's awesome, guys. Everybody, thanks for joining. Red Pill, Sean, Matrix Media, Jose, C4, Bandsaw, and all the listeners who listening now or listening in the future. Hope y'all learned something. What I would challenge us to do, we all heard, and I understand that we all had 10 minutes, so we won't be here for like hours and hours, right? And none of us were really prepared, so we came with what was really core to us. But still, we heard what's the core idea that if you asked a flat earther, what's the core thing? We heard what they had to say. A glober, we heard what's your core thing? We heard what they had to say. So what I would challenge us to do is, if we went back, and let's say if I'm a flat earther, I say, you know what, I heard what this person said is why they think it's the truth. Let me disprove that. Or I heard what this glober said disproves flat earth, or why they don't believe flat earth. I'm going to prove it's true. And the same thing, you know, this flat earther said that's why they believe flat earth. I'm going to disprove that. Or that's why they said they can't accept the globe because that can't be explained. I'm going to find that out. So I think that gives us a good starting point for future debates or for future videos we want to make. We can make it straight towards that, and we can see, hey, if I disprove what they said they believe, are they going to accept it? If I prove what I said that they say we can't prove, are they going to accept it? Or can I even do that? Can I answer the challenge that the opposition said? So I appreciate y'all joining and sharing where y'all was at, guys. And I'll go ahead and end the stream, and I look forward to. I heard everybody what they had to say. I look forward to hearing it again, and I know I'm going to, you know, try to see if I can answer questions that was asked or disprove what was said and so forth. Thank everybody for joining.
Thanks a lot, man. I really appreciate it. Great conversation.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Cheers, Darryl. Cheers,
cool,
guys,
y'all.
for all joining in.
Appreciate it, bro.
Yeah, great stuff, guys.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night or day, depending on where you are.
I like your style, Darryl. That's a good idea, kind of a good little turn, you know, like, yeah, break down choose one person and find the rebuttal to the points, you know, and that can become just one episode, one-on-one, like, hey, you mentioned this, and it can be kind of a little one-on-one back and forth, just a single presentation, you know. I like the style, yeah.
Awesome, guys. Y'all have a nice one.
All right.
Yeah. Next time, bro. Next time, man.
All right.